Hi, Professor Carol J.M. here. In this video, I want to talk to you about how your brain learns math. Specifically, we're going to go over fixed versus growth mindset again because it's so important. Then I'll talk to you about what happens in the brain when you learn math physically. And as a result, what should you do? Coming right up. Dr. Joe Bowler and Dr. Carol Dweck from Stanford University have done a lot of work in how students can learn math, and Carol Dweck specifically did the fixed versus the growth mindset. Joe Bowler has brought together all of this research that shows that brains can grow and adapt. This is something called brain plasticity. Brains have a lifelong capacity to rewire themselves and to grow. Did you know your intelligence is not fixed? You can change it by your attitude, your mindset, and your work ethic. When learning happens in the brain, a synapse fires in the brain. That no learning can happen without that happening. Brain experiences are much more important than any inherent genetic differences between people. New evidence from brain research shows that almost everybody, more than 95%, with the right environment and as long as they have the right attitude and they take the right actions, can be successful in math. And Dr. Carol Dweck really talked about this very important difference between fixed growth and growth mindsets. About 40% of people have a fixed mindset, about 40% have a growth mindset, and about 20% fluctuate between the two. When students believe they can do it, when students have a growth mindset, they do much better in math. Let's look at that some of the data. The potential to grow the brain is huge. Look at that green line showing the increase in GPA from students who have a growth mindset. And notice how those who have a fixed mindset, their GPA is going down. Students with a fixed mindset want to look smart, so they avoid challenges and they give up very easily. They get frustrated easily. Of course they do. They see effort as fruitless. If you think you don't have a math brain, why try? They ignore feedback, especially negative feedback. They emote, they get angry, they cry, they get upset. They see the success of others as a threat, and they feel like there's nothing they can do. On the other hand, students with a growth mindset want to learn. They're focused on learning, not looking smart. So they embrace challenges and they just keep going in the face of setbacks. They know that effort is the key to success. They're willing to learn from criticism. None of us like it, but they're willing to learn from it. And they get inspired when other people are successful. Notice the difference between fixed and growth mindsets. The growth mindset have a great sense of free will. I can do it if I try. Whereas the fixed mindset, well, they've got a feeling of helplessness and behave that way. Let's do an experiment. Which mindset do you have, growth or fixed? Suppose you're having a pretty bad day. You go to class, and the class is really important to you and you like the class a lot. The professor returns the midterm to you and you made a C+, which makes you feel pretty disappointed. That evening on the way home, you go out to your car in the parking lot and now you have a parking ticket. So you call your best friend, but you're kind of brushed off. What would you do? How would you feel? What would you think? What would you do? When Carol Dweck wrote this scenario, she deliberately made it so it wasn't very extreme. It's a C+, not an F. It's a parking ticket, not a car accident or let alone a crash with injuries. And the friend sort of brushed you off. Not definitely. Now let's look at some quotes from those with a fixed mindset and those with a growth mindset. Fixed mindset students said things like, "My life is pitiful. The world is out to get me. I'd feel like a reject. I'm a loser. I wouldn't bother to put time and effort into doing anything well in the future." Someone else said that I'd get drunk. Well, that's bound to help you with math. Eat chocolate, again, not really a good math strategy. And the really telling quote from a fixed mindset student, "What is there to do?" Notice how the helplessness of that statement. Growth mindset students, on the other hand, said things like, well, I need to try harder in class. I think I better be more careful parking the car. I wonder if my friend had a bad day. I'd start by studying harder, pay the ticket, work things out with my friend, and speak to the teacher, resolving to do better. See how a growth mindset student puts this scenario in perspective, doesn't overreact, doesn't over-emote, and is able to take the criticism and the feedback from the reality of the midterm exam and move forward with it. By the way, it's the midterm, not the final exam. If you recognize yourself in these scenarios, I want to tell you the number one way that students can move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset is to learn about these things and to start focusing and paying attention when they start having fixed mindset thoughts and resolving to change the way they react with their math class. I want you to work towards a growth mindset. You can change yourself. You don't have to keep any bad habits you might have had in the past. When we learn, a little electrical current fires in our brains, crossing synapses and connecting different brain areas. If you learn something deeply, the synaptic activity creates long-lasting connections and structures in your brain. But if you just look at an idea once, or maybe not very deeply, then those connections can wash away like a drawing in the sand. Every time you make a mistake in math, you are growing a synapse. Mistakes are learning. I value mistakes. The struggle and those mistakes are really important. A psychologist called John Moser studied the brain reactions of people when they made a mistake, And there's two electrical events that occur. One's called ERN, the first response, one's called PE. The first electrical firing happens whether the person knows they've made a mistake or not. And the second one happens if they become aware they've made the mistake. You can't learn if you're not making a mistake. What's really interesting is the difference in the brains of students making a mistake with a growth mindset and students who make a mistake with a fixed mindset. Let's have a look. The brain activity was greater following a mistake for individuals with a growth mindset than for individuals with a fixed mindset. To really learn, you've got to embrace your mistakes. Work on your fixed mindset if you have one. Make sure that you're really focused on your attitude. Embrace your mistakes. The study also showed that those individuals with a growth mindset had a much greater awareness of their errors, and they were much more likely to go back and correct those errors.